So I'd been meaning to pick up Konosuba for a while. I wasn't really in any rush, and then I heard it described as It's Always Sunny, but in anime. I'll get to that comparison in just a bit, and whether or not I think it's apt. But first, I'll tell you just what this show's about. Konosuba is centered around our main character, Kazuma, who, spoiler alert, dies in the opening minutes of the show. That's not really a spoiler though, because it sets up the main premise of the show, but when he dies, he meets this goddess named Aqua who gives him a choice. He can either be reincarnated, head up to heaven, or he has a unique third option to be essentially plopped down in a new fantasy-esque world, memories, appearance, and all that intact. So it's probably pretty obvious which he chooses. It's your typical setup, but then they throw in a comedic element. Kazuma was told he could bring one thing with him to help him in this new life. Something like a magic item or special ability. He's taking his time deciding, much to the annoyance of Aqua, who in turn decides to rush him to the point of frustration. So out of this relatively small amount of spite, Kazuma decides that she will be the thing he takes with him. The two get warped to this new world, much to Aqua's dismay, and our story is a go. The analogy to a show like It's Always Sunny is an interesting, albeit not perfect comparison, but I see why it was made. Konosuba is more than anything else a comedy, and much like the great shows of Seinfeld or It's Always Sunny, you don't really tune in for the overarching plot. I'm not constantly wondering if Patty's pub is gonna go under or if George will find a steady job. Those story beats might be brought up if it's relevant to the current plot, but otherwise it's out of sight, out of mind. Now let's look at Konosuba. From its premise alone, you probably wouldn't guess it's primarily comedic, with the setting being an almost RPG-like world and the motive of both Kazuma and Aqua being to defeat the Devil King. You'd assume it's an action-adventure story. The hero setting off on his mighty journey. That's certainly what Kazuma thinks at the beginning, but you realize this was just the draw. Come for the fantasy and RPG elements, but stay for the comedy and characters. Speaking of which, part of this disillusion both we the audience and Kazuma experience is due to his other party members. A goddess, a powerful mage, and a mighty crusader. Not bad, but Aqua is a clueless dunce. Megumin, while level-headed, is obsessed with only learning explosion magic she can only cast once per day, and Darkness is a complete masochist who wants to protect others because she knows she'll get hurt or worse in the process. And with these four characters, the real hook of the show begins to shine through. The reason you watch Konosuba is the same as why you watch a show like It's Always Sunny or any other sitcom. Interactions between the characters based on the situation they're in. And this show has a great cast of characters to play with. But don't expect anyone to really learn a lesson or grow that much as a person. If you do, you'll probably end up being disappointed. I'm well into the second season of this show, and everyone pretty much acts how they did when they first met. The only difference is in how accustomed to each other's bullshit they are, and us by proxy. This means that any interaction between the group can and often does result in a great joke. I think a show like Konosuba could work in a more mundane setting. However, the fantasy backdrop does serve to set up unique jokes and situations you might not expect to find in this genre. That said, some of my favorite moments from this show thus far have come from just simple character interactions between these bunch of misfits. The more you watch, the more you want to see the hijinks that ensues from this foursome. You really don't care if they ever end up defeating the Devil King because you're just having so much fun. I think it's a fantastic show that's had me laughing from beginning to end. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 5 and recommend it even if you're not a huge fan of anime. But do be prepared for some jokes based around anime tropes. Just a warning. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of On Geek. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to click that like button, subscribe for future videos like this one, leave your suggestions down below for future episodes, and I will see you guys next week with a brand new On Geek.